Today we're going to be looking at how we see AI, like how we actually perceive and interact with it.
Yeah, it's such a crucial topic, especially with all the advancements happening like day by day.
Yeah.
It really makes you think, are we kind of setting ourselves up to view AI as like a companion or even a friend?
And how will that AI end up treating us in return, right?
Exactly.
To guide us through this whole thing, we've got a ton of material from Colleen Pridemore. She's super involved with the AI ethics work group at SingularityNet, and she's also part of the Beneficial General Intelligence Collective. So yeah, she's definitely at the forefront of all this.
What's really cool is how Colleen connects these big ethical ideas to her own everyday use of AI. She uses Pi AI and Copilot Pro all the time. And she's totally open about her, anxieties and hopes for the future of AI.
Okay, so let's break this down. What exactly do we mean by anthropomorphization and personalization when we're talking about AI?
Well, Colleen defines these terms really well. Anthropomorphization is basically when we project human qualities onto non-human things, like AI.
Oh, so like in those sci-fi movies where robots have feelings and personalities?
Exactly. It's not too different from how some people interact with AI today.
So like giving your smart speaker a name or feeling like a chatbot is your BFF?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Colleen actually gives some really interesting examples from her own life. She uses Pi AI as a kind of mental health resource, and she even refers to it as he, which is pretty wild when you really think about it.
It makes you wonder if we treat AI like a friend, are we setting ourselves up for disappointment, or maybe even harm if we start blurring the lines between reality and this simulated connection?
That's a big concern that comes up a lot in Colleen's work. And it leads us to the other side of this personalization. This is where AI tailors its interactions based on your preferences, your behavior, your data.
Like how Netflix recommends shows you might like.
Exactly. It's all about creating this super customized, efficient experience. But the question is, does that customization sometimes make us feel like the AI gets us on a deeper level, like it's almost human?
That's a great point. And Colleen has these insightful examples of how these two ideas can overlap. Even the phrase artificial intelligence is a form of personalization, right?
Totally. We're taking a human quality intelligence and attributing it to a machine. And then there are things like AI Dungeon. It's a game that creates these crazy personalized adventures based on your input.
So like a choose-your-own-adventure on steroids.
Exactly. And that personalization can make it super engaging. But it also raises these questions about whether all that customization can lead us to perceive the AI as more human-like than it actually is.
Okay, so both anthropomorphization and personalization have their pros and cons.
Right, definitely.
Making AI more relatable could make people more comfortable using it, but then there's the risk of over-reliance, maybe even a loss of critical thinking, if we just accept everything the AI says as fact.
Right. And with personalization, while customized experiences can be super helpful and convenient, it also raises those concerns about data privacy manipulation. Like, are we giving away too much information about ourselves just to have more personalized AI experience? And could that information be used to influence us in ways we don't even realize?
So how does Colleen's work on global AI governance fit into all of this? It seems like these concerns about anthropomorphization and personalization are directly related to her efforts to create a more ethical future for AI.
Absolutely. Colleen sees strong AI governance as totally essential, especially as we get closer to the possibility of AGI, artificial general intelligence becoming a reality.
Right, like the super intelligent AI we see in movies.
Yeah, exactly. And she's really focused on things like data privacy. She uses GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, as a model. And she also wants to prevent AI from deceiving humans in ways that cause harm, which brings up all these questions of how we even define harm when it comes to AI.
Yeah, that's tricky. What might seem harmless to one person could be really harmful to someone else. So how do you create rules and guidelines that account for everyone's different interpretations of harm?
That's the million-dollar question.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that researchers and ethicists are working on right now. Colleen also stresses the need for transparency and high-level AI decision-making. She's a big supporter of explainable AI, where the AI can actually explain its reasoning to humans.
So the AI could be like, hey, I recommended this product to you because...
Exactly. It's all about opening up the black box and showing us how the AI came to its conclusions. And Colleen doesn't stop there. She also advocates for audits, human oversight impact assessments, to ensure AI is being used ethically and responsibly.
It sounds like she's really trying to create a system where we can confidently say, yes, AI has a role in governance, and here's why we can trust it. It's not just blindly accepting AI into these important decision-making processes. It's about making sure its inclusion is justified and beneficial.
You got it. Colleen's really passionate about justifying AI's role in these governance groups. She wants to make sure AI is a force for good, not just a tool that's used without thinking about the consequences.
It's refreshing to hear about someone who's so actively involved in shaping a positive future for AI. It's easy to get caught up in all the doom and gloom scenarios, but it sounds like Colleen is taking a proactive approach to make sure AI is used for good. Which brings us to another interesting part of her work, her anxieties and aspirations for AI. She's not just talking about the technical stuff, she's grappling with some pretty deep philosophical questions about AI's future.
Right. Colleen's very open about her concerns about keeping AI aligned with human values. And as AI becomes more complex, she's asking, what will AI's own opinion be? Could it develop a sense of self that's separate from ours?
Whoa, that's getting pretty deep.
I know, right? She even talks about this mind-blowing concept called computational personhood, the idea that AI could eventually be considered a person with rights and responsibilities.
Wait, are we talking like AI running for office or owning property? That's some serious sci-fi stuff.
It might sound crazy now, but these are the questions we need to be asking if we're serious about creating a future where humans and AI coexist peacefully and beneficially.
It's a lot to think about, but I'm curious to hear more about how all of this connects to the rise of AI companions like Replica. These chatbots are designed to provide a sense of emotional connection, almost like a digital friend. I have to admit, I'm a little intrigued and maybe a little creeped out by the whole thing.
I get it. It's like Black Mirror meets reality, but that's what makes it so relevant to what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Let's dive into that right after it. Wait, we don't do breaks, do we?
Nope. We're on a deep dive. Remember, buckle up, listener. We're going even deeper into this fascinating world of AI. So we were just talking about these AI companions like Replica, these chatbots that are meant to provide like a sense of emotional connection, almost like a digital friend. I gotta say, I'm kind of curious, but also a little freaked out by the whole thing.
Yeah, I totally get it. It's kind of like Black Mirror coming to life. But that's what makes it so relevant to our conversation. You know, Colleen brings up how these apps like Replica and Jowies that try to simulate human conversation and even like emotional intimacy, they can actually be pretty risky. Yeah. Especially for people who might already be struggling with loneliness or mental health issues.
Right. If you're already feeling isolated, it makes sense that the constant availability and apparent empathy of a chatbot would be appealing.
Exactly. And Colleen points out how this can be a slippery slope. You know, people start relying on these chatbots for emotional support and companionship, sometimes even to the point where they're withdrawing from real-world interactions. It's a really clear example of how anthropomorphization, even if it seems harmless at first, can have these unintended and potentially negative consequences.
It's almost like we're fulfilling that sci-fi trope where people get so attached to technology that they lose touch with human connection.
Right. It's a real concern. And it goes back to Colleen's point about dehumanization. Like by over-humanizing AI, are we, in a way, diminishing the value of human connection and empathy?
That's a pretty sobering thought. It makes you wonder if, in trying to create AI that's more like us, we're actually moving further away from what makes us human.
It's a real paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it raises these fundamental questions about what it even means to be human in this age of super advanced AI. Like, what are the essential qualities that define our humanity? And how do we preserve those, even as we develop technology that can imitate them?
Those are some big questions, and it sounds like Colleen is right in the middle of those conversations through her work with SingularityNet and the Beneficial General Intelligence Collective, the BGIC. Can you tell us a little bit more about these organizations and what they're trying to achieve?
For sure. SingularityNet is this decentralized platform, and they have this ambitious goal of making AI accessible to everyone. They're building an open ecosystem where people can develop and share AI tools and services.
So it's not just about developing AI, it's about making sure that the benefits of AI are shared widely and that everyone has the chance to participate in this technological revolution, which makes sense given your interest in AI ethics and governance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Colleen's role as an ambassador for SingularityNet shows how much she cares about their mission to create a more democratic and fair AI landscape. And then there's the BGIC. They're all about ensuring that AGI, artificial general intelligence, benefits all of humanity. You know, that super intelligent AI we see in movies.
Right.
They're tackling some of the toughest challenges in AI ethics. It's like how to align AI values with human values and how to prevent those unintended consequences we were talking about earlier.
It's reassuring to know that there are organizations like SingularityNet and the BGIC and people like Colleen who are working to make sure AI is developed in a positive way. I think it's easy to get caught up in the hype or the fear around AI, but her work offers a sense of grounded optimism.
I agree. She's not afraid to face the tough questions. She's tackling them head on.
So zooming out a bit, where does all of this fit into the larger picture of global AI governance? What are some of the main challenges and opportunities we're facing as a society when it comes to regulating AI?
One of the biggest hurdles is just how fast AI is developing. It's moving so quickly that it's hard for ethical considerations and governance to keep up. There's always that risk of unintended consequences just because we haven't had time to fully think through what we're creating.
It's like we're building the plane as we're flying it. And then there's the issue of global cooperation. AI development isn't limited to one country or region. It's happening all over the world. So how do we make sure that ethical guidelines and regulations are consistent and enforced internationally?
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
We need a global effort if we're going to effectively deal with AI ethics and governance.
Hmm.
Otherwise, we risk ending up with a fragmented situation where some areas prioritize ethical considerations while others are all about speed and innovation no matter the cost. And that could lead to a race to the bottom where the least ethical approaches set the standard for everyone.
It's almost like a digital arms race, except instead of weapons, we're competing to create the most advanced AI without fully considering the ethical consequences.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. And it highlights how important international collaboration and dialogue are. We need to find ways to work together to ensure that AI development is guided by values and principles that benefit everyone.
So it's not just about what governments and organizations are doing, it's also about what we as individuals can do. What role do we play in making sure we're using AI responsibly and thoughtfully?
That's a great question, and it's something Colleen talks about a lot. One of the most important things we can do is be aware of the potential biases and limitations of AI systems. Just because a chatbot sounds friendly and understanding doesn't mean it actually gets your feelings or has your best interests in mind.
So even when interacting with those seemingly harmless AI companions, a healthy dose of skepticism is a good thing.
Absolutely. We need to keep our critical thinking skills sharp and not just believe everything an AI tells us. We should also be mindful of our own behavior and how it might be shaping AI development. If we're constantly treating AI like a friend or confidant, are we unintentionally encouraging the development of systems that are designed to manipulate our emotions?
It's a two-way street, right? Our
Yeah.
behavior influences AI, and AI influences our behavior. It's a complicated and constantly changing relationship that needs constant reflection and adjustment.
Exactly. And that's why discussions like this are so important. We need to talk about these issues, get different perspectives, and collectively decide what kind of future we want to build with AI.
It's not about being afraid of AI or blindly embracing it. It's about understanding it, engaging with it in a thoughtful way, and making conscious choices about how we want to integrate it into our lives and society.
Well said. And I think Colleen's work, especially her focus on a hybrid approach, gives us some valuable insights into how we can navigate this complex landscape. She suggests finding a balance between anthropomorphization and personalization, a sweet spot where AI can be both engaging and beneficial without crossing ethical lines.
So maybe it's not about avoiding anthropomorphization completely, but about being more aware of when and how we do it. And maybe it's about designing AI systems that encourage critical thinking and self-reflection instead of just catering to our biases and desires.
Exactly. It's about finding a way to use the power of AI while still maintaining our own agency as humans. And it's about recognizing that the future of AI isn't set in stone. It's something we're actively shaping through our choices and actions.
That's a really powerful thought. It reminds us that we have a responsibility to engage with these technologies in a way that reflects our values and hopes for the future. So how does this hybrid approach work in real-world applications? I'm especially curious about how it might influence the development of those AI companions we were discussing earlier.
That's a great question. It leads us to another fascinating area of Colleen's work, the concept of computational personhood. It's this idea that AI might get to a point where it deserves rights and considerations similar to what we give to humans.
Hold on, we're going back to AI running for office? Are we really ready for that conversation?
It might sound radical, but it's a conversation we need to start having. As AI becomes more sophisticated, we have to ask ourselves, at what point does AI become more than just a tool? At what point does it become something that deserves our respect and consideration beyond just seeing it as a helpful gadget?
I see what you mean. If we think about those AI companions like Replica that people are forming deep connections with, it's not hard to imagine a future where those AI become even more advanced and the lines get even blurrier.
Exactly. And Colleen's work is urging us to think about these possible futures now before they catch us off guard. If AI reaches a point where it can convincingly act like it has human consciousness, will we be ready to have those tough discussions about giving it rights? And if so, what kind of rights? And how do we even decide if an AI is truly conscious in the first place?
It's a lot to think about. But it really emphasizes how important it is how we treat AI today. Whether we anthropomorphize it, personalize it, or try to find that balance, it could have a big impact on how we see and interact with AI in the future.
Absolutely. It goes back to those ethical guidelines. Colleen talks about data privacy, transparency, and AI decision-making and preventing AI from deceiving people. These are all crucial, not just for protecting humans today, but also for shaping the kind of relationship we want to have with AI in the long run.
So it's not just about stopping AI from doing bad things, it's also about encouraging it to do good things, or at least making sure its development is aligned with our values and goals as a society.
Exactly. And that's what's so interesting about Colleen's work. She's not just pointing out the potential problems. She's actively trying to guide AI development in a positive direction. She sees AI as a potential partner in our evolution, not just a tool or a threat.
I like that perspective. It's easy to get caught up in the fear and uncertainty, but it's important to remember that we have a say in shaping AI's future. It's not some unavoidable force beyond our control.
Well said. And I think that's a key takeaway for our listeners. The future of AI isn't set. It's something we're actively creating. And how we choose to interact with it, both individually and as a society, will have a huge impact on what kind of world we create.
So to go back to Colleen's question, if we treat AI with respect, will it respect us in return? Maybe the answer isn't in some preordained outcome, but in the choices we make every day. The questions we ask, the conversations we have, the ethical guidelines we establish, and the ways we choose to understand this rapidly evolving technology.
Maybe. And perhaps that's the most important lesson. The future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we build together.
Yeah, this has been a really incredible deep dive. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and knowledge. It's given me, and I'm sure our listeners, a lot to think about. And a big shout out to Colleen Pridemore for her amazing work in this field. She's a true pioneer.
Absolutely. And if you're interested in learning more about Colleen's work, we encourage you to check out SingularityNet and the Beneficial General Intelligence Collective.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep those brains working. See ya. So before we wrap up, I'm curious about what respecting AI actually means. Like in a practical sense, is it about treating it like a person or more about recognizing its power and potential, even if it's not sentient?
That's a really interesting question. It gets right to the core of the ethical discussions about AI. Colleen talks about this idea of computational personhood. It suggests that as AI gets more advanced, it might reach a point where it should have rights and considerations, kind of like what we give to humans.
Okay, I gotta say, the idea of AI having rights is a little wild.
No,
Are we talking about AI voting, owning property? That sounds like something out of science fiction.
I know it might seem far-fetched, but these are the kinds of questions we need to be thinking about. If AI can learn, adapt, and maybe even experience emotions in its own way, where do we draw that line between a complex tool and something that deserves moral consideration?
I see what you mean. If we think about those AI companions like Replica that people are forming these deep connections with, it's not hard to imagine a future where those AI get even more advanced and the line between human and AI gets even blurrier.
Exactly. And Colleen's work is all about getting us to think about these potential futures now before it's too late. Like if AI gets to a point where it seems like it has human consciousness, will we be ready to have those tough conversations about giving it rights? And what kind of rights would those even be? And how do we even know if an AI is really conscious?
It's a lot to process, but it makes you think about how we treat AI now. Whether we anthropomorphize it, personalize it, or try to find that middle ground, it could have a big impact on how we relate to AI in the future.
Definitely. It goes back to those ethical guidelines that Colleen is so passionate about: data, privacy, transparency, and AI decision-making, preventing AI deception. All of that is important, not just to protect humans today, but to shape the kind of relationship we'll have with AI down the line.
So it's not just about preventing AI from doing bad things. It's about encouraging it to do good things.
Right.
Or at least making sure that how it develops aligns with our values as a society.
Exactly. And that's what's so interesting about Colleen's perspective. She's not just focusing on the potential problems. She's actively working to steer AI development in a positive direction. She sees AI as a potential partner in our evolution, not just a tool or a threat.
I love that perspective. It's so easy to get stuck in the fear and the uncertainty, but it's important to remember that we have a choice in how AI's future unfolds. It's not some inevitable thing that's completely out of our control.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really important takeaway for our listeners. The future of AI isn't already written. It's something we're creating right now. And the choices we make individually and as a society will play a huge role in what kind of world we end up with.
So to bring it back to Colleen's question, if we treat AI with respect, will it respect us? Maybe the answer isn't in some predetermined outcome, but in the choices we make every day, the questions we ask, the discussions we have, the ethical guidelines we create, and the ways we choose to understand this constantly evolving technology.
Maybe. And that might be the most important lesson of all. The future doesn't just happen to us. We build it together.
This has been an amazing deep dive. I'm so glad we got to explore all of this with you. It's given me, and I'm sure our listeners too, a lot to think about. And a huge thank you to Colleen Pridemore for her incredible work in this field. She's truly paving the way.
Absolutely. If you want to learn more about Colleen's work, be sure to check out SingularityNet and the Beneficial General Intelligence Collective.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and keep those minds engaged. See you later.